Hello, I'm Nathan P. Butler, author of a Saga on home video and host from the Star Wars Home Video Library here on YouTube, and this is Star Wars Home Video Year by Year. This time we take a look at 2016, and this is a big year, so I anticipate this being one of our longer episodes here, because this is a year of transition, in a sense. We've already seen some impacts of the purchase of Lucasfilm by Disney and some of the new Disney series hitting home video, which has inserted Walt Disney Studios home entertainment into the picture. But up to this point, any live-action film releases have all been through some variation of 20th Century Fox. 20th Century Fox Video, CBS Fox Video, 20th Century Fox Home Entertainment, and so on. Well now, because we saw the release in theaters in December of 2015 of The Force Awakens, we finally are seeing live-action films being released that are completely under the auspices of Disney, and therefore coming out through Walt Disney Studios Home Entertainment. And the question going into 2016 was, well, what will that mean? What will these releases look like? Will they set new patterns? How will they differ from what we saw before? In essence, The Force Awakens on home video becomes sort of a test case of everything that'll come between 2016 and right around 2020. So we have a lot to get into to look at those patterns being laid across different regions. For context, other key moments for Star Wars this year, we see the passing of Carrie Fisher. We see some Star Wars VR content in the form of the PlayStation VR Rogue One mission for Star Wars Battlefront from EA. And we have Celebration Europe 3, along with the television debut of the Freemaker Adventures, which we'll also see on home video this year. This is also the year of the first Star Wars anthology film being released in theaters, which of course was Rogue One. That of course is the first time we see a Star Wars live-action film being released without an episode number, unless you count the initial releases of A New Hope before it got the number and subtitle. Everything else has been 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now, we see something a little bit different, and we'll see it on home video next year, not quite yet. That's a downside of releasing in December. You get the home video release the following year, not the same year. Only Solo will get its release in the same calendar year, but now we're really getting ahead of ourselves. I would also note that from a content coverage standpoint, if you are someone who is following along with this series chronologically in my book, A Saga on Home Video 2nd edition, this is also a transition moment. Remember that anything that is not a live-action film is covered in Volume 3. So Rebels, for instance, that we're covering here, or the Lego Star Wars stuff, that's all in here. That's beyond the films kind of stuff. But up until this point, we followed from 1977 all the way through 2015 with material that would have been in Volume 1 of the book. Now that we are transitioning into sort of a new era, that brings us into Volume 2. So starting this episode, we are starting this volume. Again, you can find those on Amazon in paperback, sort of a premium hardback, or a print replica digital edition for Kindle. So before we dive into The Force Awakens, that is going to take up the bulk of our time and our coverage here, let's check out the other stuff from this year that was noteworthy. You may recall that about a decade prior to this episode's time frame, we saw George Lucas get the AFI Life Achievement Award. Well, here in 2016, we see John Williams get the same. This is the little program booklet you could have gotten if you were actually at the ceremony, but more importantly, there's another home video set. This one in a box, not that easily shatterable acrylic that we saw for George Lucas. And for Star Wars content, the box includes the regular multi-format edition of The Force Awakens that we're about to see in a moment, and the steelbook from 2015, the previous year of A New Hope. This year also saw continued releases of Star Wars Rebels. We have the Blu-ray of the complete Season 2. We also have the DVD release of the complete Season 2. They really were kind of pushing you towards Blu-ray, though, at this point, because the primary featurette that people would most likely be interested in for Season 2 is From Apprentice to Adversary, Vader vs. Ahsoka, which was only on Blu-ray. I would also note that just like Spark of Rebellion, the hour-long premiere for this season actually aired a little bit earlier called Siege of Lothal is presented in its rerun two-part format on these rather than as one whole. Over in the UK, a little bit late because they already saw their regular release of Rebels: The Complete Season 1. They got a Season 1 steelbook here in 2016. Unfortunately, the Season 2 steelbook is going to take years to finally arrive over there. We also saw some new LEGO Star Wars content. We had the Padawan Menace getting a reissue through Walmart. Essentially the same thing we saw previously in 2013, but now it has a digital code through Voodoo included with it. We also saw the first season of LEGO Star Wars The Freemaker Adventures in a Blu-ray set that comes with a set of magnets here inside kind of one of those larger boxes to fit that in a Blu-ray case, and a DVD set of the same style, also with those magnets. If by chance you would order that as a reward through Disney Movie Rewards, which we talked about previously, you would get A substandard crappy copy because it's just the Blu-ray case with the discs inside, no outer packaging or magnets. And I would call that disappointing were it not for the sheer insanity of the other LEGO Star Wars release this year, which was the DVD release of the series Droid Tales, the entire series on DVD. Yay, but wait, what is this? New on DVD, free exclusive trading card set inside. Collect all 3 sets. I'm sorry. 3 sets of trading cards, collect all 3. 1 set randomly inserted into a DVD release. Are you really telling me you expect me to buy this over and over and over again in hopes of getting these trading cards? Well, apparently so, because yes, there were 3 different sets of cards for a total of 9 different freaking cards. You have Luke Skywalker, C-3PO and R2-D2, Emperor Palpatine, that is 1 set. Another set has Rebels, Stormtroopers, and Darth Vader, and there's a 3rd set that has Darth Maul, Anakin Skywalker, and Jedi. So yes, you would get 1 set of 3, and thank God, thank the Force, that the 3 that are in a pack are always the same, but there's 3 different packs of 3. To get the whole set, you would have to blind buy Droid Tales over and over, at least 3 times if you're extremely lucky to get all 3 sets. That is some amazing bullshit as a marketing tactic for this stuff. Buying toys where you might have some random stuff, okay, maybe if you want to get different toys, maybe they have a chance of the same type of stuff. But getting the same DVD over and over again, no one does that. You are artificially trying to drive up demand for your product in a way that is not at all beneficial to the consumer to have multiple copies just to get those. I get it. Cards are kind of a thing in that way, TCG, CCG, chase cards and whatnot in trading cards, but not with the DVD. Thank goodness for eBay for me to be able to get these. I only had to buy multiple copies of this and then find one of the packs separately, and it was a relatively small number of copies later on when their prices had gone down. But buying these new and trying to get 3 sets of 3 to collect them all? That's some crap. Whoever thought that was a good idea, screw you and the LEGO EOP you rode in on. But of course, as I mentioned, the biggest thing this year was the release of The Force Awakens on home video. The question being, what precedent will it set with it coming out from Walt Disney Studios Home Entertainment rather than 20th Century Fox Home Entertainment in terms of things like store exclusives, formats available, what's packaged together, that sort of thing. Well, we'll start with looking at the United States, where the most basic version was simply a DVD release. No bonus features to speak of. The more popular mainstream release of this one was a multi-format edition. So we have a live-action film here, Star Wars The Force Awakens, with Blu-ray and DVD and a digital HD copy packaged in. We had not seen a digital copy packaged in with a Star Wars film since the days of the Clone Wars in 2008. Now, because it's all under one roof, we see it here. Why weren't the other ones? We talked about that in the 2015 episode last time around when we looked at how the distribution rights worked with the digital movie collection. But now, instead of having to buy them separately, you get your free digital copy with your physical release, at least in the United States. And this has a slipcover here. This is your interior, and it's important for us to look at these disc labels because they will change soon. There's your Blu-ray with the Falcon versus the TIE Fighters there. And then along with that, you have a bonus features disc, which has the table read type thing here, or whatever that would be called. Not exactly at a table. And then we have the DVD release here with Rey and BB-8 walking on Jakku. In this era, as was typically the case, your digital movie was downloadable just with a code, which also gave you your Disney Movie Reward points. We are past the point where digital copies need to be on physical discs, as we saw sometimes in the past, like with Clone Wars. But let's pause for a moment on the whole idea of a digital copy, because this is an era in which it's not just getting physical media and getting the digital copy along with it as a bonus in the US. A lot of folks are just buying their films digitally only, and the digital copy of the film would come with the various bonus features to go with it. But how do you entice people to pick up a digital release? How do you somehow advertise that in a store that's also selling physical media? Well, and we see this only for The Force Awakens here, you do a digital movie pre-order package. You go to a physical store and buy this. And what this includes is a set, kind of folds open here, of little mini posters, basically, and a digital copy code. So you got your digital copy code on a nice little slip here, a large slip, and then different versions of the movie poster on little art cards, as we will see soon from Japan with one of their packages as well, though they tend to have more. So you can actually go to a physical store to buy a digital copy by getting this package. It's kind of like how still these days you sometimes see people go into a physical store to buy like a card that represents buying a video game that then has a code on it that they redeem through their video game console. Kind of similar. We only saw this with The Force Awakens. But like Han Solo said when Wicket interrupted him kissing Leia in Return of the Jedi, back to the physical stuff. Wow. Anyway, if you had bought that regular multi-format release of The Force Awakens, say through Disney Store in one of the physical outlets or through shopdisney.com, which is essentially their sort of digital version of Disney Store, you could have got a bonus of this. This is the Force Awakens lithograph package. So what you have in here with a nice little fold-over BB-8 flap is a set of lithographs exclusive to Disney Store and Shop Disney. We will see this happen with 4 lithograph sets for all of the Disney era films. But as we've seen in recent years, this is an era of store exclusives, and we start to see some patterns begin for store exclusives for these new Star Wars live-action films. They tend to be through retailers, which would be, in that case, Disney Store / Shop Disney. We will see something from Disney Movie Club soon, but not for The Force Awakens. That'll pick up with Rogue One. But as far as physical retailers go, we will see exclusives tending to be from Best Buy, Walmart, and Target, though they will tend to vary sometimes. Best Buy tends to be the most consistent, in that Best Buy is always the US source for Steelbook releases here. In this case, with the name on the spine, we will see that depending on the region, the spine may or may not have the name on it. This is basically the exact same stuff that you would get in that regular multi-format edition, Blu-ray, DVD, and digital HD code, just in a Steelbook. If you were to go to Walmart, you could get, again, exactly the same thing, but in a different package here. They're exclusive with a little Velcro BB-8 flap with the characters underneath. Inside, essentially the same thing, except along with your discs and your code slip, you also had a Star Wars Galactic Connections game piece, which appears to have just been a random game piece dropped into them. Ooh, collect them all! But at least these are part of a game you could get outside of buying this over and over again. And then Target was interesting. Target had this little sort of cardboard fold-out packaging here. Kind of flimsy. I mean, it doesn't feel flimsy, but it's easier to damage than the rest because there's no hard case around it. Fold-out art there that's really cool. I mean, it looks pretty neat. I'm dropping the slip here. Looks pretty neat. The discs themselves are kind of buried inside flaps, but again, it is the Blu-ray, DVD, and digital. But what's interesting here is that if you redeem the digital code from Target, you get 2 extra digital-only bonus features. The Scavenger and the Stormtrooper, and Inside the Armory. They were only available if you redeem the digital code specifically from Target. Not available in physical form here, and that's something we're going to see from Target. Target will vary their packaging a bit over time. What we'll find is that Target is always the place that if there's going to be some kind of exclusive bonus feature, Target's going to be where you're going to get it from. But it's going to vary. Sometimes it's digital, like in this case. Other times it'll be in an extra physical DVD. It depends on the film. Kind of weird. You'll know that your code slip is from Target, by the way, not because of this side, but because of the other side that specifically says redeem your exclusive Target bonus content, whereas the regular ones just have the Star Wars The Force Awakens logo on it. If we jump over to the UK, we have some kind of similar releases in some cases, but the UK is going to kind of form its own patterns as we go here. So the UK DVD looks very much like the US version of it. The UK regular release, though, tends to split for the numbered films, 7, 8, 9. So we have 2 different copies, in this case, light side and dark side. But it's just new slipcovers. So you have the light side slipcover version here, and you have the dark side slipcover version here, but inside it's just the regular version, but it does have a blue rather than black Blu-ray case, as we saw in the US there. And it is just Blu-ray inside, no DVD copy, and no digital code. We'll find that the US is really the only region outside of, say, something like Japan, where digital copies tend to be pretty standard, whereas most of the other regions we look at here will not include digital copy codes at all. So if I don't happen to mention that, just note that that tends to be the case. The UK also got their own exclusive steelbook, this coming from retailer Zavvi, which is going to tend to be their primary source of steelbooks over the years. And again, is just Blu-ray. And notice here that the spine is different. Instead of having the title in English, it's character portraits. Usually what we'll find in the future is that most of the time for an English-speaking country, or primarily English-speaking country, it'll be English on the spine, and when they want it language independent for another region, then they'll go with the character portraits. Like Italy for this one also has the character portraits. But this time, the UK also gets the character portrait version of the steelbook. If you were picking up those releases, you could go to Tesco in the UK and have a bonus item in the form of this small version of a Star Wars expert guide, which is kind of some cool little guide type content here, which is content originally from the Star Wars The Force Awakens Visual Dictionary, Beware the Sith, Battles for the Galaxy, and Mysteries of the Jedi. Another region I like getting stuff from the Disney era films is South Korea. So you have your South Korean version of the DVD. I like them because the packaging and stuff tend to be pretty different. So there's their DVD, but inside something similar to what we saw in the US and the UK. Theirs, though, actually comes with a little slip about the film and a little standee of BB-8. And they have sort of their regular Blu-ray release here with Rey on the cover. Again, just a slip, but different artwork on the inside, kind of like the interior of that Walmart version, plus a black case. This one, just being Blu-ray, also includes a little standee of Kylo Ren. South Korea also got some pretty cool little exclusives, although their exclusive source will tend to change from year to year, typically. So we have a lenticular version of the film. That is a top-loading slipcover here over a steelbook. Inside, along with their discs, the DVD of which is slightly different because of its label here, we actually have a little booklet to go with it, and 2 sets of cards. We have BB-8, Rey, Kylo, and Finn as one set of cards. Then we have 4 sort of shots from the film on larger cards. And if by chance you picked up their steelbook, again, language-independent steelbook, from somewhere other than Nova Media and their Nova Choice line, which is where these exclusives are coming from, you could get a steelbook that would actually come with a little PET slipcover that you could put on top of it, and a little spine magnet that is also lenticular in case you wanted to have the English language title on it that goes from blue to red. Now these were individually numbered down here in the corner. In this case, this is number 11 out of only 800 of these ever produced. Then you have another version coming from Nova Media from their Nova Choice series, also individually numbered here. This is full slip version A, which has a booklet, a little bit bigger this time and outside of the actual steelbook case, but then the steelbook itself with the discs and full sets of cards again. For this version, the individual number is on the bottom. I have a matching set here of number 11. This is 11 out of only 600 produced. And then you have full slip B with the Falcon here on both sides. Again, the same booklet and the same essential content inside, along with your cards again. Again, also number 11 for me out of only 600 of these produced. Over in Japan, they got a pretty fancy set. You'll notice here that top shelf has been cleared out. It's one of those back layer things that we don't usually see here on the show, which is the Premium Limited Box Edition out of Japan for The Force Awakens. Pretty cool package here. What you've got inside includes a steelbook release of the film, a Kylo Ren action figure with stand, a special guidebook, and multiple little posters that actually come inside a little stand for them. These include 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 different posters. As we go along, we will see that I do pick up the most fancy release out of Japan for each of the Disney era films, but not all of them. Speaking of an oddball item, we have one coming out of Thailand, which is The Force Awakens on DVD with a t-shirt inside. The t-shirt, which I have not opened, is just the logo for the film. The DVD, pretty plain looking, is inside this nicer packaging. And speaking of oddball foreign releases of this initial round of stuff for The Force Awakens, one format that we have seen for a little while finally has its swan song here, with what appears to be the last Indonesian VCD release for Star Wars, which is, of course, The Force Awakens. This time, though, because of the length of the film, we're actually looking at 3 VCDs for the film. That, by the way, will end our look at VCDs as far as I can tell. It appears Indonesia was one of the last ones to have the format, and this was the last Indonesian Star Wars VCD. So lots of cool releases from different parts of the world. The US, the UK, South Korea, Japan, we will tend to look at those. Thailand, in this case, had the little oddball. Indonesia with the oddball there. But that was only the initial release of The Force Awakens. Your bonus features disc, but not the Scavenger and the Stormtrooper or Inside the Armory that were there from Target. There were also ones that were digital only elsewhere. A lot of digital platforms. If you pre-ordered, you could get the Brazil Comic Con experience video, which has also been entitled as Legacy. iTunes had Dressing the Galaxy as an extra featurette. And Disney Movies Anywhere, their new digital platform where you could purchase stuff or redeem and watch through there, which would actually allow you to synchronize to other platforms eventually, and eventually became Movies Anywhere rather than Disney Movies Anywhere. It had an extra deleted scene called Tunnel Standoff. Then the Blu-ray disc didn't have an audio commentary at all for that initial release. So we were kind of hoping for an audio commentary because the other films had them. Heck, the other films had 2 of them each for the live-action films. And what about those digital bonus features? It'd be nice to have them in physical form. There was also an entire format that had been ignored at this point. In this era, we're starting to see films being released quite a bit in theaters in 3D. They may be shot in 3D, or they may be a post-conversion process after it's already been shot to convert it to 3D, but 3D was a thing in theaters, and there was a format for home video that could handle 3D if you had the right equipment. Blu-ray 3D. Something you could play, for example, on a PlayStation 3 or a PlayStation 4. Something you could play eventually with a PlayStation VR headset. You could play on a television that handles 3D, etc., which unfortunately they don't make anymore. I love the home viewing 3D format that is Blu-ray 3D. I love watching 3D stuff at home anytime I can. And it didn't exist for The Force Awakens in that first run of home video releases, even though it had existed in theaters. Well, later on in the year, it's double dipping time, because now we see a 3D release of The Force Awakens. Thankfully, most of the time, there's not all the different store exclusives this time around. So in the US, you get this. The Force Awakens 3D Collector's Edition. Got the cool little lenticular type cover there. Little fold-out packaging. You do get your digital code and everything here. But you notice some changes. The Blu-ray has been updated. New label with the X-Wings. This now has an audio commentary from J.J. Abrams. You also have an updated bonus features disc, now with J.J. Abrams and Harrison Ford on here in color. That'll matter later. And yes, this actually has brought all those digital-only bonus features onto a physical disc. So this has been updated as well. The DVD, still the same DVD. And now there is a 3D disc as well to watch in 3D at home if you've got the proper equipment. It was a little weird for digital because you still had like your original digital code kind of thing going on here. But then to get the other new digital stuff, you would have to use a separate code also found in the package. But at least you got it all. In this case, there was a single store exclusive, completely indiscernible from the outside, unless it's still in its shrink wrap with a little sticker on it that says, "Only at Walmart." All it includes is one extra little concept art card. This was kind of a big deal. Not everybody necessarily watches 3D content at home, but this was a big deal because it's the first time we see a Star Wars live-action film being released on Blu-ray 3D. And we knew that they existed for the prequels up to this point. We saw convention releases of 3D conversions of Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith. And The Phantom Menace had been in 3D, not just at conventions, but also in theaters, and never got 3D home releases. In fact, as of the time that I am recording this in 2025, they still haven't gotten 3D home releases. Instead, it's the Disney-era films that get them. But we will find that in the US, only The Force Awakens and Rogue One will get them. To get the other 3 Disney-era live-action films going up through 2020, we'll have to look outside our borders. Notice though for the US there, it was Blu-ray film disc, Blu-ray bonus features disc, DVD, Blu-ray 3D disc, and digital content. Over in the UK, we have this variation of a similar theme here. Taking the J card off there, but this one, a little bit thinner. And no exclusive versions of this one. This one has your Blu-ray 3D disc and both Blu-rays, but no DVD or digital copy. As one might expect, because remember, the regular versions from earlier in the year were just Blu-ray or DVD, not combo packs. The UK, though, also got a standard version of the film in 3D. I've seen this listed as 2016. This could have come a little bit later, but all I've ever seen is 2016, so it must have been released alongside this or pretty close. But just standard packaging here, again, just with the Blu-rays and the 3D disc. If fancy wasn't really your thing and you wanted something kind of odd, here's an example of one out of Malaysia. Force Awakens 3D, but in this case, it's two separate cases inside with artwork, no names except on the spine, where they put the Blu-rays in one case and a Blu-ray 3D disc in the other case. Then we have kind of an odd release here out of the UK that comes late in 2016, but it's the first in a really cool new product line that I really like called the Big Sleeve Edition. It looks like it should be an LP for music, right? It's about the size of like a Laserdisc as well. But instead, what you'll find when you open it up is that it's discs here, plus some art cards, as we'll see. It has the updated Blu-ray, the updated Blu-ray bonus features disc, and it has the DVD. It does not have the 3D version in this one. And if you open the little edge here, you have art cards inside. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Unfortunately, we're going to see that those fancy boxes out of Japan and the Big Sleeve Edition out of the UK, and some releases we're going to see starting next year in China, will only cover The Force Awakens, Rogue One, and The Last Jedi, and then they will stop. It is not possible to have a complete set of Big Sleeve Edition, Premium Limited Box Edition, or what we will see coming out of Blue Fans in China next time. And then finally, to round out this episode and round out the releases of The Force Awakens this year, they couldn't be content with just 2 waves of The Force Awakens content. The original stuff in April, and then the ones that came in November that brought the Blu-ray 3D disc, but also added the audio commentary to the Blu-ray and added those digital bonus features to the bonus features disc. No, 2 releases, April and November, were not enough. In December, it's holiday season, Walmart put out another round of exclusives, though not much to them. On Blu-ray, you got this. This is just that regular Blu-ray DVD digital combo pack in fancy holiday packaging themed slipcover style. And they did the same thing for the DVD release, again with just the regular DVD on the inside. But it's the beginning of seeing Walmart holiday exclusive releases. So Walmart really was kind of hitting the ground running with exclusives here in the Walt Disney Studios Home Entertainment live action film era, because they got their original one with the fold-out BB-8, they got an exclusive, the only exclusive, with the little art card for the 3D release, and now they're getting 2 exclusive versions released, at least slipcover-wise, for the holidays. We will see that holiday season 2017 will be amazing for Walmart holiday releases. That's getting a little bit ahead of ourselves. We still have a bit more to see eventually with The Force Awakens as we see things coming from Blue Fans out of China, though they're a little bit later in their releases. But of course, this is also the year that we're seeing Rogue One released in theaters, which means it must be hitting home video the following year. So join us next time as we take a look at 2017.